This is Tony Poulos. I'm here today with some selected guests to talk about how brand challengers are wanting to enter the next generation mobile space. It's a very hotly contested market at the moment, but niche players are finding room to come in and attract and address particular market sectors. Today I've asked three specialists in the marketplace. Firstly, Lucas Koskowski, who is the CEO of Redknee. Lucas, welcome. And Fernando Raimondo, who is the CEO of KPN in Spain. Welcome, good to have you here as well. And of course our old friend Dario Talmesio, who is a principal analyst with Informa. I figured you three would be the best to talk about this because you have experience from all different angles of the marketplace. And I'm particularly interested in talking about MVNO activity. We're starting to see MVNOs predominantly driven by brand names that want to come into the market. Is this a viable policy, and what do they have to look out for? Lucas, what do you think is the issues?
So we're definitely seeing a lot of interest and a lot more activity than ever before globally. In all the markets, as operators have consolidated, they're looking for sub-brands and brand challenges to really help them address the niche markets and really optimize each of the segments. I think what they have to look out for is they shouldn't try to become a telecom operator. I think as might have been tried in the past, and they have to look at the back office systems to support them in their agility, leveraging what they really are good at, and having ability to really market, because I think that's key.
Well, that would be your driver, but in your case, as an operator, are you attracting these MVNOs? Do you want them to become customers in markets so competitive as Spain?
Yeah, well, I think that the customers are every time more and more exigent. This is important that we are starting to see a split between handset vendors and the telco services. These last 2-3 years we have been a kind of a situation where the telecom operator is also subsidizing and being a big player of the handset delivery, and we think that this is changing. Now we have to be forced by the customers just to sell the service, and this is where the MVNOs, I think, have a real room for that. So we are willing to play as a cost leader, and we are somehow addressing the same situation as in the airlines with the Ryanairs, with the EasyJets, and this kind of companies, and that's our role.
Well, Dario, you're watching the market across the board, particularly in Europe. Are you seeing increased activity? And are they only brand players coming into this space, or are there other operators that are coming into the markets, their competitive markets as well?
I mean, not only in Europe, I would say globally, there is a lot of interest in the MVNO space. Particularly Europe has been booming over the past year in regard to the MVNO space. And as you mentioned, there's not only second brand or dual brand, there's not only niche market to address, but there's also a lot of interest from operators from, as you say, outside the European region to enter the European region and grab those customers that have more brand affinity to them rather than to the local operators. But the beauty of the MVNO market is that you can't just determine what is going to be successful today. You have to be able to change very frequently and to change very rapidly to the evolving market dynamics. And that's why we see so many MVNOs in the market, and that's why we see that these niche players achieve certain results that can't be achieved by a monolithic big brand like the one we know it.
Well, that leads me back to Fernando. As an operator who hosts MVNOs, what do they have to do to differentiate themselves, and how are they doing it? Are they limited by what you can do on the network, or are they coming with their own ideas and concepts?
Us,
yes.
How do we differentiate?
Yes.
I think that we have basically to address exactly what the customers are asking for. So we have been seeing incumbents making very, very complex tariffs, basically just to avoid the customer to can compare tariff with the tariff. So you have a kind of equation tariffs together with a handset that drives you to a contract of 18 months or 24 months. And the customer doesn't want that. The customer just asks for simplicity. This happened 10 years ago in the fixed market. The fixed market is where it is, and now this is a turn for the mobile. So we have to address this simplicity.
When we talked about MVNOs years ago, they tended to rely on the parent operator to do most of the work for them. But that's changing now, isn't it? You're spending a lot of time and effort providing MV enablement capabilities. Are they wanting to do more and more themselves? Are they capable as brands to do more of the work, particularly in the BSS and the back office space?
So I think it's interesting. I think definitely, as was mentioned, it's about agility, adaptability, and really speed. So to us, the approach has been, I think, what they find is the systems that incumbents are providing are not meeting those requirements and needs, and not being cost effective in order to meet their brand objective and their business objective. So our effort has been spent both Redknee directly, working also with Microsoft and working with Tech Mahindra now, that we want to provide different avenues of having cloud-based offering, which is high on configuration, low on customization, and for you to be able to grow, to use it as you grow, we can create high leverage. It becomes low TCO, and allows you also the flexibility of integrating as cloud services to your own loyalty programs, to your own back office, while being able to change quickly your daily deals, promotions, bundles, and be able to do that with low technology requirement, and also not owning anything on site.
One of the things that's come up recently is the discussion about OTT, or over-the-top players, utilising the bandwidth of the operators and not contributing. Do you see a time, Dario, that we're going to see perhaps the over-the-top players becoming MVNOs as well in order to guarantee service to their customer base, or is that way in the future?
It's, I think it is possible that an OTT want to become an MVNO. But there are many ways to get there. You don't really necessarily need to be a Google talking to an operator, setting up your HLR, setting up everything. So there are probably lighter ways of entering the MVNO space from an OTT point of view. What we didn't see before were OTT launching the MVNO, simply because the integration process was way too difficult, simply because they come from a completely different area. So, but if you have the possibility, as we see now today, of having a middleman effectively managing all the technical difficulties for you, obviously that opens up a possibility for an OTT to enter the space as an MVNO.
If the MVNOs are coming on board and you're starting to see them growing in your operation, for example, how do you compete with them? Do you start to compete with them as an operator, or do they become a target for the operator in the future?
No, I think there's a lot of room for agreements between them and us. Obviously, we have to specialize in our fields. As I said before, we are a telco, and as telco, we are a service provider. That's it. So we should not go much beyond than that. Obviously, there is a lot of opportunities where we can make a cooperation, because they need our infrastructure and we need their applications. So it's a good combination. And I think there is a lot of opportunities for making this kind of agreements between them on us. But I don't see them being an MVNO per se.
It's interesting you mentioned applications, because I think that may be one of the drivers that MVNOs will bring, particularly brand names bringing their own applications into the marketplace. Will they do that exclusively, do you think, for their brand and try to attract and keep their own customers, or will they try and open them up to as many people as possible?
Obviously, the market is big enough, so I think it would be a mistake just to focus in a very specific market. So I think it's the opportunity is being as wide as possible.
And how big is the market? How many market sectors are there that we can break it down to, and how many brands are we going to see?
I'm going to take this one. How big is the market? I think at the end of last year we had about 85 million MVNO customers globally. Now Informa Telecoms and Media is forecasting the market to become 186 million by the end of 2016. So it's a big market. It's a very, very big market, and it's growing. Obviously, traditionally the level of revenues that an MVNO brings in are different from the one of a mainstream operator, because the target market is different. So that is some sort of a misconception that there is in the industry sometimes that MVNOs do not make money. Actually, MVNOs that work properly do make a lot of money, with profits that exceed the one of the hosting operator. So,
well, go on.
Yeah, so I think to build on that, I see the market actually growing, because as you remove the barriers to entry, if I can start and have an MVNO which is profitable for 1,000 people in my community, because I can leverage cloud technologies and I can have configuration, I don't have to try to replicate the complexity I had before, you will start seeing splintering. And I think operators themselves are trying to create multiple of their own brands to address, because they found that their big one brand doesn't appeal to their broad segments that they already have. But also what they're realizing is the MVNOs and sub-brands are their friends. They load the network, they create demand, they also deal with the simplify or make the service more complex. And as you have multiple different parties, both consumer but also businesses, where business-oriented MVNOs get generated with cloud services, cloud applications which are for vertical specific, e-health, transportation, government services. You have a bit more specialized where some of the MVNOs will become system integrators for the verticals. So it becomes quite, I think the growth is opening up, so it's almost a greenfield within the mature field.
So it sounds like we're all in violent agreement that MVNO market is going to boom again, and hopefully this time round be more successful than it was with the initial offerings we saw 5, 6, 8 years ago. Would you agree?
Definitely agree. I think what we saw back in 2006 and 8 was a natural cool down of a market that became probably overhyped. But what was hyped 3, 4, 5 years ago is now become a reality. Yes. So definitely we see now that all the talks that happened 5 years ago helped to shape the market as it is, and it is going to be in future. But from our perspective, we definitely see the MVNO market growing in size and proliferating in different countries. There are a lot of countries that do not have MVNOs today, and we will see by the end of 2012 a lot of more countries hosting MVNOs.
Dario, Fernando, Lucas, thank you very much for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Very interesting conversation. Thanks.
Thank you very much.